This is the Dayton and Cincinnati contract version May 20th, 2025, sections 20 through 22, I believe it is. Let's look at that again. 20 through 22, 20 through 22 is what we're going to go over. Of the changes that the attorneys made, we only need to point out section 20, which is on line 417, where the seller concession went from $300 to $500. Also, the buyer now has the option to defer decision on purchasing owner's title policy, and it says the entire section was rewritten for clarity. So, long story short, title insurance has always been in our contract. As it relates, they changed section C, 20C, which is line 417, to read the seller shall pay an amount up to $500 towards the purchase of an owner's title policy. And so, options are obviously that the buyer's paying at their own expense. The buyer shall later determine whether to purchase a policy. The seller contributes up to contributes $500, and then D talks about that the seller shall pay for the entire policy. So that's in there, and so again, none of this has changed. So then you get down to 21. Bring this to the top. Tax bills in Ohio are billed a full year in arrears. Buyers shall be responsible for any and all tax bills that come due. And so it talks about proration of how taxes work and so on and so forth, as it does with section underneath 21, where it talks about tax proration. So in tax proration, you could do long proration of taxes or short proration of taxes. If you leave it blank, it defaults to long, and if you want short, you would have to check the box to make it short. And then it talks about assessments, if there are any. It talks about how to handle those. It's got a new construction section that talks about how taxes are handled as it relates to new construction, and then other prorations in section 22. It kind of in quick, 22A talks about there shall be prorated expenses shall be prorated between the seller and the buyer at closing, which include association assessments, rents and operating expenses if the real estate is rented to tenants. So that would deal with maybe 2, 3, or 4 units. Security and damage deposits held by the seller may be transferred to the buyer at closing without proration, and seller and the buyer acknowledge that prorations are based on information provided at closing, and that the actual amounts charged and/or collected for prorated items may differ. However, all closing prorations shall be final. So that's the key that I would point up there, is it is final. It is not up for debate after the closing. You can't come back and say, hey, we did math wrong. You can ask. I doubt it's going to go anywhere, because it states that it is final. So that is sections 20 through 22.